Hello, it's your favourite Atomic Blonde here with a little bit of Sunday lunch. Hope you're all having a great weekend. It's a bit of a mixed bag so far. We're getting sunshine and rain and weather warnings, and Europe's going through a heat wave. We're not. Typical British summer, I think. Obviously, this week Mission Impossible's come out. So far, so good. I'm hopefully going to go see it tomorrow. So I will put up a review and let you know what I think. But fingers crossed, it's looking like it's going to be a great film. Lots of fun. And that's really what we need. It's a complete lack of fun in cinema now. I think one of the things I saw, I still haven't bothered to go see Indiana Jones. I don't think I'm going to waste my money doing that. But, one of the main complaints of that is it's just not fun. It's dour and whatever, but yeah, so really excited to be to go see that tomorrow if all goes to plan. I am out today, I know, Saturday, yesterday, recording it. Spoiler. So hence why I'm recording it today, because I don't know what shape I'm going to be in tomorrow. I wanted to make sure you got your Sunday lunch. So yeah, if I'm not completely broken, I know, old enough to know better. I will be going to see Mission Impossible tomorrow. So if you see a review, you know how great my evening was tonight. Anyway, as always, let's get into it. First up, Hijack. So episode 4 was on Wednesday. Things are starting to move along. As I said, it kind of needed to pick up the pace a little bit. So this episode, and again, finally, like something that you'd see, because obviously they've not been able to contact the plane. They have established that it is hijacked. And they're going over, coming out to Budapest over a certain airspace. And then finally, some jets have arrived because, post 9/11, it's kind of standard protocol that, if you can't get contact with a plane that regardless of the nationality, unfortunately, there's a good chance you'll be shot down. You're flying in a weapon as is the world we live in now. So 2 jets turn up. They're still trying to contact the plane. From the previous episode, we saw there was that fight and scuffle with this stupid guy, hijacker, who wouldn't let one of the passengers get the medicine for his uncle, which was completely unnecessary. There was a bit of a scuffle, and one of the hijackers got stabbed with a pair of scissors. He's now massively bleeding out. Oh, I should really start with a cliffhanger, shouldn't I? That, like I said, it wasn't really a cliffhanger because Idris isn't going to get killed. So didn't get killed. Someone else did get shot. And as I said last week, fault of the kid. You can always rely on the children to get killed. The woman who is sitting opposite the mum, and the mum's freaking out trying to find her daughter, who just decided to crawl off for no apparent reason. She was looking for the daughter, and she got shot by the main hijacker, the head of the hijackers, who changed his dummy bullets for real bullets. So now the mums all, because they had a bit of a set to in the first episode, because this girl was a bit like, kids. And this mum was just unnecessarily rude. Now she's kind of having a bit of a freak out because this girl, it's quite a young girl, died trying to help, find her daughter. So everybody's kind of, a bit more reserved. Everybody's sort of sitting down, doing what they're told. It just basically tells the hijacker, a different hijacker, because they're at the back of the plane, this happened at the front of the plane, to shoot him. And then he realizes obviously someone's been shot. So he's a bit like, crap. So he just ends up being tied up at the back of the plane. Most of this episode then is the hijacker that got stabbed. He's now really badly bleeding out. He's at the back of the plane and talking to Idris, and the stewardess is trying to help him. And it's a bit bizarre. They don't seem to have a first aid kit on board. I would have thought there'd be a first aid kit on board on a plane, but apparently not. So they're running around trying to find something to stop the bleeding. He's progressively getting worse and worse. He's quite a young lad, same age. He says, "Oh, you're about the same age as my son," and he's trying to help him. And he's like, "Oh, I know what you're trying to do." And he's because obviously all we know about Idris is that he's some sort of negotiator. So he's like, no, if it was my son, I want someone to help my son. And he sort of starts to help him. But obviously he has an ulterior motive as well. And this kid's like, I'm going to die, aren't I? I'm going to die. And he's just like, no, you're not. Don't worry. It's going to be all right. And if you think that way, you will. We need to think positive. But mainly just sort of talking around, like sort of asking about, have you got any family? And he mentions his mum. And he basically sort of gets him to agree that say, like, do you want to speak to your mum? So he gets the phone out, the Wi-Fi's on. So I think they had to turn the Wi-Fi on to enable the pilot to speak to the jets, because he's basically saying, look, they are going to shoot us down if you don't let me speak to them. He tries to speak to them, but the hijackers, because he's a knob, basically broke the headphones, so he can't speak to the jets. So Idris has got this guy's phone out. He basically calls his wife, which goes to voicemail. He kind of leaves a coded message on there, deletes the phone history, then phones this boy's mum. He's then able to leave a voice message for his mum. The other hijackers come down. They ask, is there a doctor on the flight? Now, the mother of the kid, the dad's actually a doctor, so he comes back. And he's able, basically, he's got a punctured lung. His lungs are filling up with blood. So he's able to do the whole pen trick and stick it in the chest. But actually, he just does that. He like slams it down into his chest. And they're able to get him to start breathing again. Through this coded message, the wife gives that to Max Beasley, who's obviously working with a policewoman, who's now there's obviously a big operation set up with the Home Office and all that kind of, the Foreign Secretary and all that kind of thing. And they're able to prove through this message that the hijackers are all British. This is about Britain, and the target is likely Britain. So they're able to contact Budapest and say, don't shoot down the jet. You're not the target. It's the UK. And the jets fly off, basically. And that's kind of, I think, where it will work basically also for this coded message. And they identify all the hijackers. They're like, this is like on a massive international scale. It's starting from Britain, but this is there's something huge going on, which was kind of been alluded to. So we still don't know why the plane's been hijacked. But I reckon next episode we should find out, because at the end, a suited man goes over to the Home Secretary, hands him an envelope as he's getting into a car. The Home Secretary opens it, reads the letter, just puts the envelope down and says, like, get the Foreign Secretary on the phone now. And all that's written on the envelope is demands. So we hopefully, because there's only 3 episodes to go, 7 episodes, 7-hour flight, we'll start to find out what all of this is about. Also, is Idris involved, or is not involved, but he's part of the target? As there's a scene where there's 2 guys phone his wife and pretend they've got a delivery for him. And she's like, well, he's not there. There's no point bringing it. And they're like, oh, we'll just come around and drop it off, blah, blah, blah. Like, very suspect. And she's a little bit sus, but then still says, yeah, that's my address, kind of thing. And they phone back and say, right, we've confirmed his address, referring to Idris's character. So he might be inadvertently a target in this and he doesn't know, or maybe he does know, and that's why he's doing what he's doing on the plane. So really, we've got 3 episodes for all this to unfold. I think this obviously could lead on to a 2nd season. Again, not necessarily being hijacked, but, you know, whatever the repercussions of this hijack are. But this episode was much better. I think they've actually just, as I said, they just needed to keep the tempo up a gear. They've absolutely done that. You could just really now, I think each episode up until the final episode, they're probably just going to crank it up. So yeah, I am chomping at the bit to find out what all this is bloody about. 4 episodes in and we don't know why the plane's been hijacked. We don't know what their demands are. We don't know whether it just does or doesn't know what's going on. But I am enjoying it. It is good, and I've absolutely, thankfully, I'm glad, got the pacing right. So can't wait for next week's episode. Do go check it out. It's every Wednesday on Apple. Worth a subscription. I don't know. They should be paying me when I promote Apple TV. So, of course, the other big news, other than Mission Impossible, is the SAG strike. So I mean, nobody can look at SAG without thinking of Team America, Film Actors Guild, Matt Damon. So sorry, I just chuck away to myself. The Actors Guild have agreed to go on strike in solidarity with the writers, because no one gave a crap that the writers had gone out on strike, because we just got so many god-awful shows and movies recently in the last few years. So now the actors are going out as well. This literally started as the Oppenheimer premiere was happening, I think, here in London, and the cast got up and walked out halfway through the film, which is a bit of a way to make a statement, I suppose. So this headline here from an article: SAG actors strike. Succession star Brian Cox says Hollywood strike could get very unpleasant. I think he's right. I mean, there's rumors or articles that in terms of the writers' strike, that the studios have just said they'll just ride it out. They're all going to go broke soon. We'll just keep going until they can't afford not to be on strike anymore. Obviously, a lot of the A-list actors, that's not going to be an issue. But there's a lot of obviously not A-list actors who will need to work. And I think out of all of this, as much as I'm very flippant about the writers and the actors, there are some good points in there. They should get residuals for streaming, where you've got big hits like Stranger Things and that kind of thing, big hits on streaming. I'm sure there are lots, Reacher, or, the really big hitters, they get paid the once, and that's that. I think more so certainly with films, they should get paid what they're worth, and the model's just not set up for that. But at the same time, and just put this quote in from Bob I Love Lamp Iger, condemned the threatened strike of this at the time, threatened strike action as very disruptive and at the worst time, as well as calling the expectations of writers and actors just not realistic. So you've basically got the studios just saying that we're all broke and you're really not helping the situation. The writers are, I think I've said it, they have gone out the worst possible time. They've done this a few years ago when, pre-COVID probably, 2018, 2019, where you were guaranteeing billion-dollar Marvel movies. That was the time to ask for more money. Now is not the time to ask for more money. Disney is just on fire and burning down, as I say, every week. Everything they release is a flop. The two next things they've got coming out is the Marvels and Snow White. They've got flop written all over them. They are just not, but the only money they've got to make this year is from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and they haven't even got James Gunn anymore. So, they're kind of just at stalemate, really. It's who can not go under first. I mean, the studios have no money, so they are going to buckle if obviously they can't get content out there. And there's only so long that the writers and most actors can stay out. The point I was going to make is I do feel sorry for all the crews that work on these films. They work bloody hard. They don't, get paid mega bucks, and they're the ones that kind of make this stuff happen. So I really feel for any, like the catering crews, the people that build the sets, the sound people, all the normies that work in this industry. My heart goes out to them because they can't work either. What are they going to do? And they're just normal people with like normal mortgages. And I feel really, really sorry because they have no way of influencing what is going on here at all. And for those people, I do hope that this gets resolved, but I don't have a lot of sympathy for the writers. Yes, they should get residuals. Yes, there should be safeguardings against AI, but in some ways, if I was a studio, you just go, okay, if this thing gets more than X amount of views or blah blah blah, who'll get some money. Most of them won't get any extra money because the shows are crap and nobody's watching them. So it might make the writers up their game a bit. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, on some good news, I heard that House of the Dragon isn't affected because it's UK based or UK production companies and predominantly UK actors who are equity and not SAG. So they're pretty much cracking on. I think principal photography has been done anyway, but they're able to crack on. So it'll be interesting to see what the studios do. I mean, they could, you know, switch to UK writers, actors, production to carry on making things. That's why KK swapped a few things. Supposedly The Acolyte, who knows if that has or hasn't been filmed, to the UK to circumvent some of this action. And I don't know if you remember back in 2008, the last writers' strike, you know, when we actually had real decent shows. And as an audience, we were like, God, sort this out. We want our shows, you know. And a lot of shows really suffered that they never got their audience back. The quality wasn't as good. We got shorter series. I remember that year it was Supernatural season 3, and we only got 16 episodes rather than usual sort of 20 to 23. And that was a cracking season 3. Real shame we didn't get all those episodes. I still love to know what those other episodes were that we never got, but hey, but you know, it had a real impact on people. Like, we weren't getting our weekly shows because obviously these things were being made as they were being put out, so they were like sort of 6 weeks ahead or something like that. And they had a lot more leverage. Now people aren't watching new stuff. What they are watching on streaming is old stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter if they're making anything or not. People aren't showing up at the cinema. What it might do is actually give us a great reset. And like I say, Hollywood might look elsewhere for writers outside of SAG. And, you know, we'll get some new fresh blood into Hollywood. We might get some new ideas. I mean, heaven forbid, we might get some original films rather than a reboot or a blooming sequel. This could, you know, get the dead wood out of Hollywood and give it the kickstart that it needs, or it will completely bring the house down. And as ever, something will step in and replace it. It's not like we're never going to get movies again, but you might just see independent studios who will grow and get bigger, or Apple and Amazon will fill the void and they will become the two big studios. Who knows? But this isn't going to go away anytime soon. I can see this running through to certainly the autumn, if not the end of the year. And like I say, it's just who comes out the least damaged in the end. I don't think, yeah, like I say, the only thing this might do is give us some fresh blood, give us some fresh ideas. But if this runs till the end of the year, you know, there could be no new movies for 2 or 3 years, which will be interesting. So will we see re-releases in 4K of old films to get, you know, we saw anniversary screenings of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Are we just going to get 40th anniversary of this or 50th anniversary of that and upscaled in 4K to fill the void for the next few years? So there's some money coming in. We shall see. But what that will do is just remind people how good films used to be and how big the gulf is now from what we were getting to what we are getting. And that's probably not a bad thing either. So I just think studios are just in a lose-lose, and the writers are in a lose-lose situation here, all of their own making. So, yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Oh. Moving along. So, yes, these two shows I talked about last week in terms of I just started watching Celebrity, and Burn the House Down came out this week, as you can see, on Thursday. I have now watched both of these. I know. Get a life, Andrea. So Celebrity, I say I was a little bit on the fence of like whether I wanted to watch this or not. It looked a bit. I think I was about 2 or 3 episodes in last week when I talked about it, and I'm so glad I did. I did get into this. It was actually very good. We had the whole with the lead actress here. that it was all around like influencers and how important in Korea it is to look a certain way, to have money, and to be a certain clique. And like I say, it's all about class in Korea, and status, really about status. And if you lose your status, it's just the worst thing that can happen. And all these sort of cliquey circles. There's this girl that she grew up wealthy. Her father went bankrupt and they lost everything. She was due to go to an Ivy League school in America. She couldn't do that. Her father deleted himself because of this shame that he brought on the family. So it's her sister, and her mum. Actually, it's not her sister, it's her best friend and her mum. She's got a brother. so I'm watching too many of these K-dramas. They're all blurring into one. So it's her brother and her best friend and her mum. So she kind of gets, she runs into an old school friend, her best friend, who's now one of these influencers, because she's in a high-end jewelry shop. And the friend therefore assumes that she's still got money and status and that she'd gone to an Ivy League school. So starts talking to her and sort of brings her into her world a bit. And then it all kind of, then they start to find out that actually that isn't her life anymore and she hasn't got any money. But she kind of then introduced this circle and into the world of influencing. And it's all about, and then it's her telling her tale of how all this happened and how can you get into this world as well. But then we sort of see that she's supposedly dead. So if she's dead, how is she making these live streams? And it's a bit like, initially it's like, all the girls like, yeah, but she's dead. She's definitely dead. We know she's dead. So it's like, did they kill her? How did she die? How is she back? And obviously, as K-dramas do, they beautifully unfold it. You find out how and why and all this happens. There's, of course, a little bit of romance in there because they can't help themselves. But it's actually really enjoyable. I did enjoy it. Like I say, it plays out really well. I do like these revenge ones. But definitely worth it. Say, if you love your K-dramas, it's definitely worth a watch. And the thing is that the way these influencers, these women are portrayed, they're just vile human beings. They're so shallow. Everything's superficial. Everything's about status and what handbags you've got. It's really sort of showing up the vacuous nature of online and the fakery of what our people project their lives to be. And like one sort of gets a bit of gossip, and the others just drop her like a stone. As soon as somebody is no longer seen to be popular, they're out. So it's sort of really showing up the worst in humanity, I guess, the worst aspects of our nature, and really how superficial it all is. Really enjoyed the watch. Definitely worth watching. It is dubbed if you're not one for subtitles, so you can pick which one you prefer. So Burn the House Down. This is actually Japanese, not Korean. Obviously, probably the other big Japanese one most people will know is Alice in Borderland, which was absolutely fantastic. If you like Squid Game, I highly recommend Alice in Borderland. Just 2 seasons, but again, absolutely nails the landing. That's also on Netflix. So this one is about a wealthy family in Japan, and at some point the house, as it says, the house gets burnt down. The mother of the house sort of takes the blame for this, and the father kind of leaves the mother. She's then left to bring up her 2 daughters. He remarries the mother's friend, who's this lady here, has nothing to do with children. She's already got 2 sons from a previous marriage, and basically kind of takes over her life. She then becomes like the rich doctor's wife. She has, again, this sort of social media thing, persona. And again, she's pretty much a vile human being. The mother ends up with some sort of amnesia, like almost like stress amnesia, kind of post-traumatic amnesia, is in hospital, can't remember the fire, can't really remember her daughters. And it's all about the daughter, the eldest daughter here. Not so much getting revenge, but wants to prove that her mother didn't set the fire. She thinks that she set the fire. On that night, she saw her laughing as the house is burning down, and her mum's on the floor, like, you know, crying and going, like, begging for forgiveness and stuff. And again, so it's how she infiltrates this family. The two sons, one's training to be a doctor, works really hard, but his mother's always putting him down. And the eldest son is actually a bit of a shut-in. He couldn't cope with the pressure. She's got this fabricated life that he's a trader and he's working abroad, but they're basically embarrassed. So he's like shut in his room, just playing games, and he's a bit of a slob and not very nice. So rather than trying to help him, they just kind of hide him away. And again, it's how her relationship evolves with these. So, because obviously they all know each other as kids. And the eldest son actually kind of clocks who she is, because obviously she's pretending to be somebody else. And it all unravels basically like her infiltrating them. They think there's proof in the house that she can prove that if she's got a certain garment of clothing in the house, they've got some a CCTV photo that they can prove that this item of clothing was hers and that she started the fire. Again, some good twists and turns, ends quite well. Constantly kind of, was it them, was it them, was it them, as you go through, and the characters do go on quite a good journey arc. Some of it's a little bit like with all of these things, you kind of go, really? Okay, well, I'm not sure you would react that way, you know, but they are dramas, they're entertainment, they're not real life. And they're just great escapism. So yeah, I enjoyed this. It's not the best drama I've ever seen, but absolutely watchable. So if you want to kill a few hours, I recommend Burn the House Down. Go check that out again on Netflix. Can't remember how many episodes it was. I think maybe 8 episodes, I think. Yeah, it's quite a short one, but enjoyable. So one Korean, one Japanese, both dubbed. Go check them out, or obviously you can watch them in native language with English subtitles. So the big ones, this coming up, Oppenheimer and Barbie. I don't know if anybody saw this great bit of artwork of Barbenheimer. We all want to go see that film, let's face it. Up and coming, releasing next week. I think they're both out on the same day, 21st of July. Obviously hearing things about Oppenheimer, if it's your sort of film, I mean, it's going to be the Oscar front runner for sure. Rumored to only, I say only, but have 100 million budget, which for this kind of film's crazy, or how it should be. Which is, you know, part of the whole problem with the writer's strike is that films are just too expensive these days. You know, we only have big blockbuster genres, you know, all the cheap rom-coms and thrillers, and they've all gone to the wayside. They just go straight on streaming these days. So, you know, we need to get a mix of genres. You know, actually, we're talking about, we talk about like diversity all the time, and, you know, we need more diversity. What we need is more diversity of storytelling and genres. That's what we need. That's why we used to actually see more diversity in terms of color and things like that, and sexuality in our films. I know it did used to happen, folks, pre-2016. Not that you believe it listening to what we hear these days, but it happened because we had so many different types of films and so many different genres that you could actually tell different types of stories that did have gay people in them. Shocker. That did have people of color in them. You know, if you look at Westerns and things, there was loads of Mexicans, probably not portrayed in the best of ways, I grant you, but you know, you just want to talk about diversity on the screen. And because all these different types of films were being made, you needed different types of actors and actresses, you know. So again, hopefully this will lead to some cheaper films and cheaper genres being made that you know, the natural diversity can just happen again. Sorry, I digress. Get off my soapbox. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Oppenheimer is a sort of film I would watch, but I wouldn't normally watch it at the cinema, I must say. The 3-hour runtime, I am not good with long films. You know, unless they're really well done and paced, and I'm sure this will be, that you don't really feel it. So I don't know. It might be worth going to see because of just sort of seeing it on the big screen, given obviously this was all filmed in IMAX. You probably, to get the full benefit of the film, it's one of those ones you probably should see at the cinema. And Barbie, I mean, I don't know, if I'm like having a bad week and I just want to go switch my brain off and just go watch something frivolous, I think that's definitely the film. Again, I want to kind of hear some of the reviews. I mean, I've heard that obviously, as usual, the actors have been opening their mouth and saying stupid things about, it just proves, like, you know, gender's not a thing and gender fluidity and blah, blah, blah. And I've heard some things, that there's some really bad kind of male bashing lines in this as well. So they've really kept it out of the trailers, because I think the studios have finally clicked that this kind of marketing and this kind of stuff isn't what people want to go see. So they've done a good job of that. Remains to be seen how much is actually in it and whether there's a good enough story there that you can kind of go, yeah, there's 3 or 4 eye rolls, but actually it's just a bloody great bit of fun, so you can forgive it. I saw one review that said, oh, it's Elf. Now, if you watch this channel, you know I love Elf. So that was quite intriguing to me. So I think, like, you know, that there's maybe that somebody comes from a very innocent world, comes to the real world, and their kind of innocence and the way they see the world rubs off on us cynical, bigoted, all the names they call us peoples. I don't know, could be. So I'm like, if it is that kind of thing, it'd probably be really, really good fun. It's like the summer version of Elf. Like every summer you stick on Barbie. Why not, you know? So yeah, I think I will definitely wait and see how heavy it leans into the political, or whether it is just a great bit of like ridiculous fun. Because as I said, this is what we need at the box office, is just fun. I mean, Oppenheimer is not going to be fun, right? But it could be entertaining, it could be visually stunning. I have no doubts it's going to be amazingly acted, you know, with the cast, Cillian and Robert Downey Jr., and things like that. People like that, I should say. So yeah, I don't doubt, but for me, it will be a pacing issue. If it feels 3 hours, not good. If it just, you know, which some do. I mean, I remember when Gladiator came out, I was like, oh my God. And boy, that just flew through that film. I loved it. Yeah, so that's kind of what's coming up. Are you planning on going to see these films? Have you got no interest at all? Have you completely tuned out of Hollywood? What do you think about the strike? Do you think it's a good or bad thing? Where do you think it's going to take us? Love to know your thoughts. Do leave me your comments about any of the shows, anything you think I should watch or check out or happy to review. Let me know. I will come back to you on your comments as well. Yeah, so short and sweet one this week. Hope you have a great weekend. Have a great week. And hopefully, if all goes to plan, I will be dropping a review of Mission Impossible tomorrow. If there's no review, I overdid it. And I will get that review to you as soon as I can. Have a great week. As always, please like, share and subscribe, or leave a comment. It really does help. All the interactions help get the channel out there. And I will be back next week with more Sunday Lunch. Have a great week. Bye-bye.